The change didn't arrive with a bang, but with a whisper, the soft, insistent hum of a life that felt too small. Ethan and Olivia had been a unit for a decade, married for 7, their lives meticulously assembled in a quiet suburb outside Atlanta, Georgia. Ethan, 35, was an architect, his hours long and demanding, but rewarding. Olivia, 31, worked from home as a freelance graphic designer. Her days structured but isolated. They had 2 children, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and their home was a beautiful, constant mess of Legos and unfinished drawings. To the neighbors, they were the portrait of stability. But underneath the surface, a quiet erosion was taking place. Ethan was present but often distant, consumed by deadlines and the crushing responsibility of being the sole primary income earner. Olivia felt herself drifting, her role shifting from partner to logistician. The real shift began with the gym. Olivia had signed up a year ago, determined to reclaim a piece of herself lost to sleepless nights and toddler demands. It was there, amidst the sterile whir of treadmills, that she met Leo. Leo was a personal trainer, 2 years younger than Olivia, with an easy smile and eyes that genuinely seemed to see her. Not just the mother or the wife, their conversations began innocently, fitness goals, diet tips, light banter. Leo was the first person in months who asked about her dreams outside of motherhood, about the art she used to create for fun. He didn't just listen, he offered genuine admiration. Ethan, when he was home, rarely asked about her freelance work and often met her complaints with fatigue or a swift change of subject. The boundary lines blurred slowly. A casual cup of coffee after a morning workout, justified as a planning session. Then, a late afternoon text thread that stretched into the evening, filled with private jokes and shared confessions about their days. Olivia started hiding her phone under the couch cushions when Ethan came into the room. 2 months into their growing intimacy, the team at Olivia's design firm had a small celebratory dinner downtown. Ethan couldn't make it, a massive deadline loomed. As she was leaving the restaurant, her phone buzzed. It was Leo. He was at a bar nearby, watching a game. She stood on the sidewalk under the street lamp, the city noise loud around her. A voice in her head, cold and rational, told her to go straight home. But another voice, starved for excitement, whispered louder. She typed a single word. Joining. Leo's bar was dimly lit and loud. The moment she sat down, the air between them felt thicker, charged with months of unspoken tension. They didn't talk about fitness or work. They talked about the feeling of being seen. He reached across the table and covered her hand with his, a simple gesture that felt like an electric shock. She stayed out late. The excuses she'd used for Ethan already forming in her mind. Traffic, too many rounds of goodbyes. When she finally walked through the door of her quiet, dark house, the betrayal wasn't in her body. It was in her mind. It was the thrill of the secret, the realization that she had chosen a dangerous path, and the terrifying knowledge that she was already looking forward to the next time. She slipped into bed beside Ethan. His breathing was heavy, the tired rhythm of a man deep in sleep. Olivia lay awake, feeling the cold, silent space between them, and knew she had just locked the door on the person she used to be. The erosion was complete. The collapse was about to begin. The single moment of weakness on the sidewalk quickly hardened into a pattern. After that night at the bar, Olivia and Leo crossed the line, not with a reluctant stumble, but with a deliberate, feverish energy. Their meetings, initially justified as coffee and conversation, became clandestine encounters, snatched moments in the chaotic rhythm of Olivia's life. Leo, with the flexibility of a self-employed personal trainer, often arranged their dates in the late mornings, after Ethan had left for his architecture firm and before the children's afternoon activities began. They met in upscale, anonymous parts of Atlanta, boutique coffee shops an hour from her suburb, or quiet, rented rooms Leo booked under a pseudonym near the downtown gym. The dual life was intoxicating and exhausting. With Leo, Olivia felt reborn. He treated her body like a work of art, her mind like a secret garden. He didn't ask her to fold laundry or manage a budget. He asked her about her desires, her fears, and the girl she was before the demands of marriage and motherhood silenced her. The sex was passionate, a desperate release of the pressure that had built up over years of emotional starvation in her marriage. But the moment she pulled her car back into the familiar driveway, the euphoria would evaporate, replaced by a cold wave of dread. She would rush to scrub away any trace of Leo, the scent of his cologne, the stray hair that wasn't hers. She was forced to become an expert liar, a performance artist in her own home. Ethan, burdened and oblivious, actually seemed to notice her more now. Not her distress, but her superficial improvement. She was working out harder, dressing better, and seemed to possess a nervous energy he mistook for happiness. "You seem happier lately, Liv," he commented one night, pulling his laptop closer. "The gym must be really working wonders." The comment was a razor-sharp insult. His blindness fueled her resentment and perversely justified her actions in her own mind. "He doesn't even know me. He doesn't see the real me. If he did, he wouldn't care." This was the toxic rationalization she used to keep going. The emotional toll began to manifest physically. Olivia started suffering from migraines, sharp, blinding headaches that forced her to retreat. The constant mental gymnastics, remembering which lie she told to which friend, ensuring her phone was always on silent and face down, left her frayed. The only true relief was in the arms of the man who was causing the pain. The affair escalated to a dangerous level 3 months in. Leo was growing possessive, demanding more time, more commitment. Olivia, though terrified of losing the escape he provided, couldn't give him what he wanted. She had children, a home, a whole life built on the foundations of a man she no longer loved but wouldn't destroy. One Tuesday, Ethan came home unexpectedly early. He'd had a panic attack at work, the pressure of the multi-million-dollar project finally breaking him. He found Olivia on the sofa, clutching her head, tears streaming down her face. She wasn't crying from a migraine. She was crying because she had just spent an hour in a passionate, tearful argument with Leo over text, ending with him threatening to contact Ethan. Ethan, seeing her distress, wrapped her in his arms. "Liv, what is it? Talk to me. Is it the kids? Is it money?" His genuine, selfless concern, the old, kind Ethan breaking through the wall of his fatigue, stabbed her with profound guilt. She couldn't tell him. She couldn't shatter his world when his own foundation was crumbling. "It's the work," she lied, her voice shaky. "My biggest client, they pulled the contract. We need the money, Ethan. I feel like a failure." Ethan held her tighter, whispering reassurances, vowing they would figure it out. This moment of intimacy, built on a mountain of deception, was more painful than any fight. She felt his trust in her as a physical weight, crushing her. But the universe, or fate, was already moving the pieces toward discovery. The following week, Ethan was on a 3-day work trip to Chicago. Olivia and Leo planned their most reckless encounter yet, an entire afternoon at a downtown hotel. On the morning of the rendezvous, Ethan called from the airport. "Honey, I left my iPad on the kitchen counter. I need it for the presentation. Can you ship it overnight to the hotel?" Olivia felt a jolt of panic. She hadn't realized Ethan had an older, rarely used iPad. It was usually tucked away in his office bag. She found it where he said it was, plugged it in to charge, and packaged it up. She didn't look at it. She didn't have to. She went to her meeting with Leo, pushing the iPad out of her mind. They had their passionate afternoon, a bittersweet climax to the emotional entanglement. When she got home, drained and spent, she noticed the shipping label was still sitting on the counter, unattached. She'd missed the last overnight pickup. It will be a day late. That's fine, she thought, and messaged Ethan the delay. Ethan, already stressed and scrambling for a backup solution, didn't reply right away. Instead, he logged into his main email account on his phone to look for the presentation file. He was searching for documents related to the project when he noticed a notification. New device login, Olivia's iPad. Last location, our home. He frowned, knowing the tablet had been sitting unused. Curious, he remotely checked the device settings. The iPad was syncing. Later that evening, after a frustrating day, Ethan finally pulled up the email notification on his phone. Out of habit, he didn't check the device itself, which was already packaged and sitting on his counter. He went into his cloud photo account, which was linked to the iPad. He was looking for a photo of a specific architectural detail when his eyes caught a series of photos taken that afternoon. They weren't on his camera roll. They were on the synced photo stream of the iPad, taken from a folder Olivia thought was private on her own phone. They were innocuous. Selfies of Olivia, not with Leo, but taken at a location he didn't recognize. A sleek, modern hotel lobby. She was wearing a dress he hadn't seen before. It was the first crack in the wall. The photos themselves showed no infidelity, but they were taken on a day she had sworn she was at home, working on a pulled contract, battling a migraine. The timestamps, the expensive non-local background, and the fact that she was wearing a new dress for a supposed workday. A cold, sick dread began to settle in Ethan's stomach. The architectural presentation was forgotten. He looked at the iPad package sitting on the counter. The box suddenly felt less like a work tool and more like a sealed piece of evidence, heading straight for him. He told his assistant to cancel the overnight shipping. He would wait. Ethan didn't confront her that night. He merely watched her, the way she flinched when he moved suddenly, the way she checked her phone constantly, her face momentarily illuminated by a text. He had the first pieces of the puzzle, and a terrifying instinct was telling him to start looking for the rest. The fog of her lies was beginning to thin, and Ethan knew that the beautiful, messy life they had built was resting on quicksand. Ethan didn't send the iPad. He brought it back into the house, unlocked the packaging, and set it on his nightstand, the cold aluminum serving as a physical reminder of the poison that had seeped into his marriage. He didn't sleep that night. He was no longer a tired architect. He was a silent investigator, his mind racing through every late evening, every migraine, every rushed trip to the gym. He started subtly. He remembered the new dress Olivia wore in the hotel lobby selfie. The next day he asked her about it, his voice calm. "That's a nice dress. When did you get it?" "Must be new." Olivia, caught completely off guard, hesitated. "Oh, that old thing? I got it ages ago. Just dug it out for the client dinner." Her quick lie was automatic, but her eyes flickered. The flicker was all the confirmation Ethan needed. He spent the next few days in a fog of calculated action. He installed a small, discreet monitoring application on the iPad, one that mirrored data across their shared cloud account. He reactivated an old Find My Phone feature on her primary device, justifying it to himself as a safety measure for the kids. He stopped asking questions and started collecting evidence. The floodgates opened within 48 hours. The synchronized chat logs began to pour in, revealing months of deception. The messages weren't vague. They were explicit, detailing rendezvous, mutual declarations of love, and cruel, dismissive comments about Ethan. He read every word. The plans to meet when he was out of town, the names of the hotels, the casual cruelty of her using his own house for her betrayal. The deepest cut wasn't the infidelity. It was the mockery. A text from Olivia to Leo, sent an hour before a family movie night, laughed at Ethan for being too exhausted to join them, boasting that the house was hers for the taking once he went to sleep. Ethan's world didn't just crack. It exploded into shards of white-hot rage and paralyzing grief. He walked into the bathroom and stared at his reflection, a stranger with hollow eyes. He staggered back to the nightstand, picked up the iPad, and walked downstairs. Olivia was in the kitchen, humming as she prepared dinner, her face innocent. She looked up, offering him a nervous smile. Ethan didn't yell. His voice was steady, a low, dangerous rumble that cut through the kitchen noise. "What's the name of the man you were with at the Hyatt Regency on Tuesday afternoon?" Olivia froze, the knife slipping from her grasp and clattering onto the counter. Her face went from pale to scarlet. Denial was her first reflex. "What are you talking about?" "Are you drunk?" Ethan didn't engage. He placed the iPad screen up on the counter. The bright display showed a recent conversation, Leo confirming a room number at the Hyatt. "I know everything, Olivia." "The gym, Leo, the apartment." The mockery. "It's all right here." Her mask shattered. She didn't cry first. She became defensive, her voice rising in a screech. "You went through my things. You spied on me." "That's illegal, Ethan. You're sick." "I'm the man who paid for the house you cheated in," Ethan retorted, his voice steel. "The man who missed our children's recitals working for the money you spent on hotels. You were the sick one." The confrontation spiraled into a devastating hours-long battle. Olivia finally confessed, tears streaming down her face, blaming Ethan's distance, her loneliness, the pressures of motherhood. She begged for forgiveness, swore it was over, pleaded for counseling. But Ethan couldn't unread the texts. He looked at her and saw only the betrayal, the effortless lies, and the years of respect that had been systematically dismantled. "Don't pack for counseling," he said, his voice flat. "Pack for your mother's house. You're leaving, now." The aftermath was a nightmare of paperwork and painful logistics. Ethan, armed with overwhelming evidence, contacted an attorney immediately. His priority was sole custody of the children and an equitable division of assets, leaning on the evidence of her infidelity and emotional abuse to ensure his financial protection. Olivia moved out that same night, taking a few suitcases and leaving behind her life. The house, once full of noise and warmth, became a tomb of silence. Ethan was crippled by the shock, but the rage gave him clarity. He was no longer the tired husband. He was the resolute father fighting for his family's future. For the children's sake, they agreed to a temporary, amicable facade. They told the kids mommy was taking a break to find herself, but the truth had a way of seeping out. Olivia, clinging to Leo and trying to justify her actions, began to plant rumors among their shared social circle that Ethan was controlling, emotionally abusive, and had driven her to seek comfort elsewhere. Some of their mutual friends, swayed by Olivia's distraught performance, initially believed her. But Ethan had his fortress of evidence. His lawyer advised him to keep it private for the divorce proceedings, but the whispers became too much. A month after Olivia left, he finally shared a select few, non-explicit screenshots with his most trusted sister and a close friend. The effect was immediate. The truth, stark and undeniable, turned the tide. People who had pitied Olivia now saw the depth of her deception. She wasn't a victim. She was a calculated betrayer who continued her affair even after being caught. Ethan filed for no-fault divorce, but presented the evidence of adultery to protect the children and secure the most favorable financial outcome. The court documents laid bare her duplicity, and the judge, seeing the clear pattern of deception and the financial harm she might cause, granted Ethan his requests, primary physical custody and a fair division that protected his savings and pension from being further exploited. Olivia walked away with minimal spousal support and the burden of her own legal fees. The finality of the divorce came nearly a year later. Ethan was granted the house in primary custody. His healing was slow, marked by therapy and the relentless, non-negotiable routine of single fatherhood. Olivia, meanwhile, had found that the excitement of the affair didn't translate into the stability of a new life. She and Leo broke up 6 months after the divorce was final, their connection having been forged in the heat of a secret, not the warmth of shared reality. A few months after the divorce, Ethan stumbled upon a social media post. It wasn't from Olivia. It was from a mutual acquaintance. The post showed a brief glimpse into Olivia's new life. She was living in a different state, had drastically changed her appearance, and was already engaged to a different man, one she'd met just weeks before. Ethan looked at the photo of his former wife, the woman who had nearly destroyed him, posing with a stranger. There was no anger, no pain, only a profound sense of closure. She wasn't his problem anymore. Her instability, her desperate search for validation, was now someone else's burden. He closed the app. He walked to the window and watched his children playing in the yard he had fought to keep for them. The betrayal had left permanent scars, but it had also taught him a crucial, painful lesson, that the greatest responsibility he had was not to his marriage, but to his own survival and the well-being of his children. He had stood in the fire, and against all odds he had walked out, not whole, but free.